Howdy, howdy, and welcome to My Bloody Judy with your final faguettes, myself, Zachary Patton Garcia.
And Ian Carlos Crawford.
Kirby Reed is going to be in Scream 6. I can never get over it. And you know what it made me think of? It's like, what has Kirby been doing all of this time? How many years has it been since Scream 4?
11?
I don't know.
12 when it comes out.
Gay's doing math. It's been over a decade since we've seen Kirby, right? She has been living a life, and she has had the benefit of because I guess she is like a next in line to Final Girl with like Gail,
Right,
Sydney, yeah. But she has the benefit of like not having had this happen again. You know,
Right.
That was like a single incident for her, and then she went on to live her life. How wonderful! How amazing! We do know that. A little bit of an update. Scream 6 will be it's set in New York City, so I'm assuming we're going to see Kirby in New York City. And it just like light bulb went off yesterday while I was at dinner, and I'm like, hey, Kirby's a New York City girl now. What is she doing in New York City? So we're going to talk about what she's doing in New York City.
I also like, it feels like you with like your accent saying like, oh, in New York City, it feels like such a, like, I'm like, it feels like a parody. Like it feels like
she's a city girl. City girls. It would have been like pretty traumatic. Her friends died. That wasn't
literally
even like
all of her friends died.
But to be fair, Jill was only one of the only like real friends that she had in that group. She wasn't close to everybody in that group. That group wasn't a tight knit group like we think of the original movie, right? Like they all didn't really know too much about each other. They didn't know
they were close with the other girl, but she was like one of the first to die. Right?
Yeah. So Kirby had other friends. She had other. I would imagine she would have a support system around her. She would probably go on. She would graduate still. She would just have to move on. You know, she would probably really want to get away from Woodsboro. I think that would be where her trauma is kind of like creeping up on her, and that she just wants to get away from that. And then I think she would move away. She'd probably go to college, take up an internship. Like I see it tracking very average.
The thing I've been thinking about is how like we didn't see the like missing poster, but that it was behind like I think Jasmine Savoy Brown's head on the like the set they had of the Woodsboro police station. And I've been thinking like, well, so are we going to, is she like in witness protection? Is she, you know, I've been thinking of that.
I wouldn't think so. I think that would be a little bit ridiculous if they did make her in witness protection because there's nobody after her, you know?
Right.
They're dead. They're dead. And I know that they think that this happens to Sydney pretty often, but Kirby is not Sydney Prescott, you know? It would be interesting to know. I do still want like a fan attack on somebody. And so it would be interesting if maybe she's been, you know, scared by a couple people throughout the years, you know, somebody calling, you know, because even in 2, Sydney was getting calls from people. Right. So I think that would be interesting. The reason I loved Kirby so much was that she was glamorous. She looked great. I love Hayden Panettiere. And she was this cool chick who was super into movies and into films. So we know Kirby has to be doing something with film, right? Like that's where my mind is going. And I want her as like a reviewer. She's like a movie reviewer, a film critic, or something like that. Is the kind of life that I see her living. How old should she be? She'd be in her 30s by now, right?
I was thinking that she is kind of like close to my age, right?
She'd be... She's
don't
closer
say
to my
that.
age.
Don't
No,
make that face.
Because I was her age when that movie came out. So she would be closer to my age. So she's almost 30 is what she'd be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right, because they were teenagers.
So I got to think, what is my life in New York City? I'm a film critic. I am going to brunches on Saturdays. What days do they go to brunches in New York City? I had to ask Ian questions about New York City life, being a New York City gay, because I just don't.
It felt like a grandmother asking me questions.
So what do you guys do? What do you guys do in the New York City?
You can do brunch either day, Zachary, Saturday or Sunday.
That's craziness. Y'all don't do it. I picture y'all doing it on like Tuesdays. I picture all y'all being like very boozed up over there.
No, I mean, yes. I actually was talking about this.
No, I mean, yes.
Well, no about brunch on Tuesday. Yes, about being boozed up. Like New York's culture, there's a lot of, it's like drinking is a part of the culture. Like I remember when I moved there, like I had friends that were like super judgy and were like, oh, you're drinking. And it's like, that's what you fucking do in New York. You like get drunk all the time. Like that's why my tolerance is so low now because I don't drink since I left New York. Cause like, I got to fucking drive a car.
There you go. There you go. So
New
she's
York, you
drinking
don't.
a little bit. She's going. I see her as very successful. I see Kirby being very successful. She dresses really nice still. She's got a nice apartment. Maybe not a penthouse, but a nice, like, decent apartment that costs maybe like $12,000 a month or something like that.
That is nothing for New York.
That's at least a bedroom. That has to be a bedroom. She got a bedroom and a bathroom and a separate living space.
No, not for 12. Are you for
For
that?
$12,000? What are you talking about, Ian?
Oh, I thought you said 1,200. Oh, 12. Yes,
No,
yes,
12,000. I'm
okay,
like,
yeah.
what the
I was like,
fuck? Why would anybody want to fucking move there? I already think that sometimes. I'm like, why would anybody want to move there with $8,000 rent?
I
Don't
can't
get
wait
it.
for the day I go out with Zach in New York. That's like an
know.
exciting moment.
You got to
for
like
me.
marry somebody and off them to move to New York. That's how you're gonna afford to live in New York, Rob. It's
Excuse
just too
me,
much.
I lived there for 10 years.
Inflation.
And then I went broke. So
There you go. So Kirby's not broke. She's very successful, I think.
I like that I see her as like a more like everyday person, not like
Well, that's what I'm saying. Successful, but like not high powered or anything like that. Like she's not a CEO. She's just like doing really well at her job. I think she's got a column like Carrie Bradshaw, but it's about films, and we just like pretend that she can afford her lifestyle based on this column or something like that. I would be interested in something along those lines.
well, so that's so wait, but that leads me back to the missing poster. So like, is she under a different name then if she's successful?
I didn't see this missing poster that you're talking about. I've been trying to avoid spoilers, but I guess I need to
No,
see
that
the
was
missing
in the
poster.
other movie. That was in
The
movie
other
5.
movie? Are you talking about the what are you talking about? The missing poster? Or are you talking about the YouTube video link?
No, oh my god. We went over this, Zach.
I did not see a missing poster.
Like when all the kids are or maybe not all, I don't know, when they're in the police station in Scream 5, on the bulletin board there was that poster that I just sent you, but you didn't see it because it was behind one of their heads, and one of the directors was like, oh, this was an Easter egg, this was our other Kirby Easter egg, but you didn't see it in the movie.
And I've never seen anybody post about it either. This is like the first that I'm hearing.
Zach,
of
we
this.
talked about
this. Adds
this.
a whole nother. I don't remember this. I don't recall. I don't recall. Two options, right? I guess we got two options
because
here.
they
One,
can ignore it because it wasn't in the movie.
because they also did like crime scene photos of Stu underneath the TV, right? Like that they were going to use, and they ended up not using it. So this is technically not in the movie, and that could have been like an option that they were going to go for. They were going to do either or she's missing, and the plot is going to be find Kirby. Make that a video game, Dead by Daylight. We'll find Kirby. That would be an interesting plot too, though. I'd be okay with the find Kirby plot, and we find her, and she is like in this building. We gotta save her, and then she's like running or something.
But the thing is, I don't want her to be like, I do like your like, I want her to like, even if she's like,
I want her to have
a
life.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
I don't want it to be like she's just like this like hermit who never leaves her apartment and is like scared of.
So we have to discuss Final Girls if we're going to bring this in, right? Because she is a Final Girl now, and we have Final Girls. We've got a variety of colors for Final Girls now. But you have the hermits who never leave their house. You have the people who like go on and like never even acknowledge that their friends died, right? They just completely ignore that. They also, I mean, I wouldn't acknowledge Jill dying either. So.
Yeah.
And then you have people who like acknowledge their trauma, but they've moved on, right? Very Sidney Prescott. And I could see them doing a Sidney Prescott with it where she's like moved on. She's gone, it didn't happen a year later. It didn't happen 2 years later again. So she just moves on. And I would prefer to see that and see her not even expecting something to happen. I don't want to see her like ultra paranoid or anything like that. Maybe she has like a deadbolt on her door that she locks, and that's like an extent of it.
And has like a taser.
I picture Kirby, if she is out living her life happily, she's very laxed right now, She's maybe that's going to be the trouble too, is that she's a little bit too laxed, not expecting something to come back and get to her.
I am really worried that she'll be the opening kill because that would bum me out.
I would hate that.
I mean, she would be real. It would be good. I'm sure
it would not be a good opening kill. I would not like it. It would be a waste of a character. I think they know this though. They have to know this, that this is a character that has a lot of potential. There's a lot of places for Kirby to go. And I think that's what makes her even more of a fascinating discussion point than even Sydney, because we know where Sydney's situated in life, right? And you either like want her to come back every sequel and like battle the bad guy, or have a little bit of peace. We don't know anything about Kirby. We haven't heard about Kirby. We don't know how she would react post Scream 4, you
Right,
know?
yeah.
So it is a really interesting conversation to be had.
And I do think that's interesting for a horror movie in general, because not often, usually if it's like, because, you know, I mean, you and I love 4, but 4 wasn't as like widely loved, right?
Yeah.
So like, not often do they bring back a character from one of the like lesser loved sequels of a franchise. And like, you know, her death was always like, quote, air quotes, death,
Yeah.
right? Like, it could be, yes, she died because she was stabbed pretty hard in the fucking stomach and left bleeding out. But like, we didn't see it. So like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this is very like different, right? It already makes it different because it's not something we've seen a lot in like horror.
And it's already like that's a pretty big draw in and of itself for Scream
Yeah.
fans, is that that's something we don't know, right? I wonder if they're going to use her in the trailer the same way they used Neve Campbell as like a draw, and maybe she won't be in it as much, or maybe she will be in it and she's like, you know, a central character, because they could. Gail's already in it. I think so too. I just have this like gut feeling that she's going to be a central character, and I'm hoping she does. I don't want to see her sidelined or anything like that. She's too good. There's too much potential here. Gail's already in New York City, right? So that kind of makes sense for her to be doing a morning show set in New York City.
They could be attacked to like, it could be like Gail's exclusive interview with Kirby Reed.
Gail's exclusive interview, and also they literally lived in the same town for all of that time, right? Like and after this whole thing happens, it would be weird that they wouldn't check up on each other maybe a little bit. And maybe Gail got her into some sort of career there in New York City, said, come your ass to New York City.
Yeah.
And I'll help you out or something.
Yeah, because like they didn't have a lot of screen time. Huh?
Yeah.
They didn't have a lot of that together in 4. Like I can't imagine. I don't remember them even like speaking that much. Like they were in scene, but like that would track. And like we saw that Dewey had her phone number. You know what I mean? So like,
yeah.
And Gail and Dewey that was a more recent thing that they broke up. So like, you know, one could. The thing I'd be okay with if in between films, like we start this and Gail and her are friends. Like, I'm okay with that because it would make sense that 10 years have passed. If Dewey had her number, then maybe him and Gail were friendly with her. Yeah, so that's like a thing I'd be okay with them just being like, yes, they are friends now and like are cool.
And I could very much see that. I could very much see them having some sort of, maybe not like besties, but like a relationship. They go out and get drinks and stuff like that, right? I don't see her having much of a relationship with Sydney, just because, I mean, obviously, because, you know, how much screen time Sydney's going to get in this movie. Could be none. But also, like, Sydney doesn't seem like she has much of a connection with anybody anymore. Like, even when she talked to Dewey on the phone, it seemed like that's the first time they talked in a long time.
Right. Yeah.
I think Kirby and Gail probably chat a little bit more than that. You know, they probably work in the same circles. So I could see that.
It's like me. I was gonna say, and their age, they're like, even though Gail's a lot older, that makes sense. It's just like us.
Kirby and your Gail, you know, I'm okay with that. I like that.
I also want to see Kirby with gay friends, or her to be queer.
I do want to see her with gay friends. I don't care so much if she's queer. I don't think with her, because she.
No, I
don't know if I care if she's in a relationship at all. I don't care to see her in a relationship. But I want her to have gay friends. Absolutely. I need her to have like a couple of like film gays that they sit around and talk movies with.
I mean, I've said this a zillion times, but like Gail needs a gay assistant. Like she just would have gays around her. And it would make sense. And I get it if they're like, ooh, but if we do that, we have to kill a bunch of gays and we don't want to. But like, I don't know. We got Jasmine Savoy Brown. As long as she survives, like, as long as we have like a gay character that survives, I'm okay with there being like gays that die. Yeah. Because like, right, Gail would, and like, so would Kirby. They would totally be like, like them at brunch where they're the only straight ones and everyone else is like very gay.
I just think so. I do think so. I think Kirby would have such an eclectic. I think Kirby would have an eclectic group of friends. I could see her having a roommate. Yeah. Yeah. I don't see her married. I don't see her with kids. I'm
such a grump about that shit, probably because I'm almost 40 and single, but I'm like, ugh, boring. Don't give me married and kids. That's boring. Never want that plot line.
Give me millennial. What are we all doing right now? Like, what are the millennials who are going to New York City doing? You know, it's Do you think she still likes horror movies, or do you think she's shying away from those?
I think she would have talked about how horror helps her cope with her trauma.
I love that. I agree. I agree. Does she have a podcast? Does Kirby Reed have a podcast that Sarah Jessica Parker should have had? And just like that, it should have been Sex in the City, the podcast. But I could see Kirby Reed with her own podcast about something, or she's doing something in the film world. She's talking about films.
I can see her being like you, though, where like the horror translates to true crime stuff. Like maybe she because like, technically her thing would be a true crime thing.
That's so good. I could see her being a true crime girl too. And that maybe she, instead of shying away from the trauma, that she's embracing it and kind of like maybe even in an unhealthy way, hyper fixated on certain aspects, like where maybe she's, her love for horror is a little bit extended, or true crime, and she's a little bit too into that, I don't think she would have shied away from horror at all, though. No. I think she would have gone right back into it. I think it would have just been taking her getting out of Woodsboro to like,
to be like, okay,
to get over her shit, right? Because it's not like she was sad that Jill died. Like, she's happy that fucking bitch died, right? She had to have been. So it's easier to hate somebody and be happy that they died than.
But like, she still did like. Still was like at a house where everyone else was like brutally murdered.
It was her house, wasn't it? Yeah, that was her house.
It was her house.
It was.
Right, because you're right, because Jill's mom died at Jill's house and then they went to Kirby's house. Right. Yeah. And my brain, I always think it's Jill's house, but no, it's not, because that's where Sydney leaves to go to get Jill.
How do you think they're going to tie the newcomers into Kirby?
I think that this makes the most sense, that maybe they're all, and I mean, I've seen people like diss this, but like that's what happened in Scream 2. Like if it was Sydney and Randy and they went to the same college, right? So like, okay, instead of 2, it can be 3 that go to the twins and, okay, that's not that many more people.
I could see them wanting to stick to it. They went through something together. They would want to stick together as a group. I could see that.
Yeah.
I think Gail's going to be the connector. I think Gail's going, this whole thing's going to start up again. They're going to connect with Gail, and Gail's going to say, I have somebody. We're going to bring her in too, and we're all going to talk about this and figure this out, or something like that. Gail is going to have I'm so excited. She's gonna be the glue to this movie, I think, between the characters. I feel like that. I feel like I've seen somebody say, I don't remember who said this, but somebody said that first movie was Dewey's movie, second movie will be Gail's, and third was supposed to be Sydney's, right? And like just as a theory and idea, and I could see that. I could definitely see it.
But I don't want that to mean Gail dies.
No, can't tell. I can't promise you nothing.
You gotta promise me.
She's gonna be thrown out of a window.
Oh no. No,
I do hope somebody's thrown out of a window. I want to see, like, I saw a picture of a set photo of an alleyway. There's so much fun to be had with that. And I really want to see, like,
I really do think putting it in New York is like great, because that makes it so different, right? We've never had like, the third one is like LA, like in general, but it's, mostly in that mansion.
This missing poster is like kind of sending me into a spiral, though. And I hope I'd rather they just pretend that didn't happen. But if they did, then she's been missing this whole time, right? Or she went missing fairly recently.
I still apply everything that we discussed, just she goes under a different alias.
Okay.
Because then it's like, okay, even if she is hired by Gail and she's like not on, because like the only problem is she can't be the face of anything if she is like missing, because then it's like, oh, she's on TV, or like, oh, she has a YouTube channel. Like that would be stupid if they still did the missing and she was like, whatever. But if she was going under an alias and wrote for Vulture or wrote for BuzzFeed, it's like, okay, yeah, like you don't always see the face, right? Like if just like a different name.
Yeah.
So I would still apply everything we said, just like she's using a different name, and maybe the new generation encounters her and like,
they probably read her column, right? And they don't know who that is.
Like Jasmine Savoy Brown's character, Mindy, would be like, oh, you're so-and-so.
It's very Scream 3, though, right? Like Sydney hidden away in her cabin in the hills, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that would be my favorite. I think it would still be interesting, right? The missing poster would still be really interesting, and it would bring I want to see true crime brought into this a little bit. I want a little bit like heavier true crime, and the way they're making it sound is that it's really gritty, bloody. It's hardcore. It's a hardcore movie, and I don't know. It's just interesting to kind of theorize about it all. But I do trust them. We trust them, and they're gonna do whatever they can with it,
and hopefully have us as the YouTubers.
Oh yes, and hopefully have Sydney Prescott, because I think at this point we're not going to know if they're going to have Sydney Prescott until they start releasing stuff. Even if they've reached a deal with her, we're not going to know that. They're not going. That's going to be a surprise.
Yeah, because the updates, it's been weird with the updates, right? Because only Nev Campbell said something, and then like the actors who are not in the movie have like, come out to support her, but like, or even like Jasmine Savoy Brown's like had like a very nice quote where she was like, oh, of course I support a woman, standing up for like what she deserves. Paramount hasn't put out anything. The directors haven't said anything. So like, that's been a little like, so yeah, I agree with you that,
because
like,
I don't think Paramount cares if, like, she's not in it or not, but if the fans are like really up in arms about it and they see box office dollars and they're like, well, if we put her back in it, we might even make what we're going to end up spending on her. So I think that's still a toss up in the air. I don't believe that she's officially out of this one. I think until we get there and we watch it, I don't know. I trust them. I trust what they're going to do with Kirby.
Yeah.
I think it was just enough that we even got a confirmation, that she's back. We haven't seen Hayden Panettiere posting anything. Where the fuck is Hayden Panettiere? Where are her updates? Does she have a Snapchat?
Snapchat?
And TikTok, anything. Where can I find updates on Hayden Panettiere? Because I need to see her.
Social media?
I need to see her having brunch because they're in Canada. In Canada, some sort of set photo. I need a set photo now, because otherwise, if they wait till the end and she finally posts something towards the end, that means she wasn't filming very long, right? And I would like to see her there for an extended period of time. Because I think Nev Campbell was only there for like a week or two. Like, they weren't there very long.
She hasn't posted much.
What do you guys think is going to happen to Kirby? Where do you think she's been in this whole time? And how do you think they're going to use her in Scream 6? Let us know down in the comments below. Send us a DM, however you want to do it. And we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.